Welcome everyone, it's Ken Bergen here from Silver Chef, and great to have everyone arriving right now. Lots of people in the room here today. We've got some terrific experts to talk numbers. I was saying before that a lot of people in hospitality, numbers make their head hurt. We like to see the dollars, but doing the sort of number crunching and analysis sometimes is not our favourite thing, but we've got a really good roll-up today of everyone who are actually very interested in this. So we got some great information for you. We'll be starting in about 1 minute, and I'll introduce people, and then we'll dive into the content. We're going to talk about bookkeeping and analysis and using a point of sale and yeah, lots of different things, and really welcome your questions as well. It'd be great to, if you can drop those questions into the chat, and I might just check out straight away. If you'll see, it's either probably at the bottom or the top of your screen, you'll see a little chat icon there. If you click on that, open it up, and if you wouldn't mind letting me know how my sound is, if I could just get a bit of feedback on sound from a few people that you can hear me okay, that would be great. Thank you. All right, sounding good. Thank you, Kathy. Thanks, Julie, Stacey, Paul. Beautiful. All right, off we go. Okay, so just a little bit of technical stuff to start with. You don't need your microphone, but use the chat to drop any comments or questions, and we'll be jumping on those straight away. Or you might have some opinions that you want to share with others. Doesn't need to be a question. If you just got some thoughts or some examples of what's been useful for you, and make sure the sound's working the way you want it to. Take notes. You know how you hear a brainwave and you think, oh, I should be doing that, and 5 minutes later it's gone. Just write it on your hand or write it on a note or text it to yourself or whatever you need to do. But we'll also be dropping links into the chat. Maybe one of the guys might like to drop a link in now. You can see how that is, so you can click on those, and we'll be sending those out to you afterwards. We're recording the session, and we'll be sending that out afterwards to everyone who's registered, so you can replay at your own leisure. I mentioned about sharing chat and questions, and also with the chat, down the bottom of that chat, see there's a little blue bar there. Set it so that other attendees can also hear it, okay? So not panelists and attendees, and that way we're all in together. Okay, there's no polls today, but that should set us up now, ready to go into the main content. A disclaimer, please make sure you read this. It's important to understand that you are responsible for how you use the information. We're going to give as honest and frank information as we can, but ultimately that comes back to you. Introducing our experts today, Chris Green and Anya Carruthers, both bookkeepers and very experienced financial controllers with lots of experience in our particular industry as well. So we'll be hearing from them. Stephen Young, who's head of business systems at Chatime. Everyone knows that famous bubble tea QSR, and he's the man who makes sure that the franchisees and business owners there are getting the information exactly how they want it. Tyrone Ho, who's worked in hospitality, everything from owning his own cafe, but more particularly as working for Redcat, one of the large point of sale companies now with Tab Square. They do kind of a combination of point of sale and artificial intelligence for ordering screens, and he's got some good opinions on point of sale as well. My two colleagues, Sven and Angus, who work with me in Silver Chef, and me, Ken Bergen, run a lot of these webinars, and it's lovely to see so many people coming back again as well. So today we're going to talk about top 5 numbers. I'm going to tell you mine and ask the others for a couple of theirs. We're going to talk about profit and loss statements and making them more useful, because oftentimes you get those things emailed to you by the accountant or the bookkeeper and you think, what the, is that really helpful? Going to talk about managing cash flow and some of the expenses coming up, putting a point of sale to work. Stephen's going to talk about how they do that at chart time, and Tyrone's going to pick up on that and develop it further. And as I've said several times, ask lots of questions. We're really keen to hear those from you and give you some answers. We'll be doing that in the chat. So this is an interesting slide to start with. You remember when you registered and there was a couple of questions. One was, how useful was the information that you get from your point of sale? Or I think it was that, or was, how much useful information do you actually have? And about 70% of people said not very good to fairly, okay. 30% seem to be quite satisfied with the information they're getting. But then I asked another open question about what was the biggest issue about managing bookkeeping and cost control. And then I took all those answers and dropped them into a little thing called a word cloud. And boom, I was actually really shocked or amazed or something that big word starting with T right there in the middle. And it's something we need to keep talking about, because it's all very well for, experts like some of us are to say, do this and do that, but time to actually get this done properly and produce better results is obviously the single biggest issue. Costing, costs, cost control, those words came up as well, but time was far and away the biggest one. So let's just keep that in mind. And yeah, I'd be interested, maybe a few people have got a bit of feedback straight away. Is there anything you've done recently? Here's a question. Be great to get a few answers. Anything you've done recently to manage your time better so you can get the results you need more quickly? I mean, the issues that people were talking about around time was things like processing invoices, data entry, reliable people who can put the figures in. Those things were coming up around time. Anyway, be interested to hear any feedback you've got about any improvements you've made in how you manage your time. Okay, so my 5 top numbers. Number of customers. Now, it's not a point of sale figure. Well, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. I know it sounds like a really simple one, but I'm amazed at how many people actually don't know the number of customers per day or per half day or per week, because once you got that, you can find all sorts of interesting things out about per head spending and patterns. So yes, you can make that compulsory on the point of sale. Obviously, if you're a quick service and you're selling, one order for 10 people and there's no sit down, it's more about transaction size. But I think that's something that a lot more people could be watching a little bit more closely. Sometimes you just do it through a quick snapshot on one day. On Tuesday, we're going to count every customer with a little clicker or something like that and use that as the basis for some analysis. Strike rate's another one I find really useful. So strike rate meaning, say we've got a cafe or a restaurant and we know that we are on average selling 30 desserts per 100 customers. So our strike rate is 3 out of 10. So is that good enough? It's getting there. I was always one for selling desserts and making good money that way, or side orders, or in clubs and pubs, I say, how many of your bar customers ordered food? You had 200 people in the bar last night, and if only 30 people ordered at the bistro, that's not good enough. So strike rate can be useful. You can find your own ways, the things that you'll find most useful with that. But notice I'm saying 3 out of 10 or 30 out of 100, because a lot of your staff and the people you work with who you want to take, be aware of this, are not often very good with percentages. They might have done it. They didn't love maths at school. Maybe they can't even work them out themselves. So find a way, you want to be able to communicate these as well as possible to people. Number 3, basket size, a typical transaction. How many items were in it? Did you sell them water as well? Did they also order fries? Did they order steamed rice with it as well? Sometimes it's just about pulling off the reports for a couple of hours of transactions and having a look at those in detail. The per head spend, I mentioned that before, again, more a sit down thing, but hot beverages, cold beverages, desserts, I know as a cafe owner, I used to watch these like a hawk, especially around desserts, which we used to sell a lot of and were pretty good money makers. And if we changed the menu and that per head on desserts went down, I knew we'd made a mistake. We had to fix up the desserts that we were selling. And the last one is, what's the item you sell the most of that's also your most profitable? And by that I mean dollar profit, like that burger there. Is that a $11 burger or a $13 burger, and are you making $8 out of it or $9 or what, and how many? So yeah, we could go into a lot of stuff on those stars and plough horses and all that analysis. Pretty familiar to a lot of people now, but that's a good one. So just before we jump into our next section, just might ask our panel experts here, what's your one or two your favorite numbers when you're kind of looking at a business?
I'll jump in there, Ken.
Yep.
I think I know you might think that I'm sitting on the fence here, but I think it's super dependent on the business, but the operator should actually know what their two numbers are, because I mean, generically you could go like, oh, okay, it's labor costs, right?
Yeah.
But if you're a high volume thing place, maybe your labor costs are always going to be really high. So what, like, maybe you really want like the average transaction value or efficiency, right? Like these days with like the old printed docket in the kitchen and the bars are almost, out the door these days with screens, so you can actually then time like the efficiency. So I think it depends on business to business, but you should actually know what that is.
Yeah, have them available. Okay. Yeah.
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
So when I get a new client that comes to me, often it's a rescue project where things have gone diabolical and they don't know where to start. So from my viewpoint, I actually look at the health of the Xero file and the integrity of the data, because there's no way that anyone can start analysing numbers if the data is corrupt and isn't true. So I start looking at the P&L and the balance sheet and the reconciliations of the big ticket items. And if they're starting to look normal and they are in alignment with where they're supposed to sit, then I can say that you could start drilling down on some of the performance numbers of the business. But if the data's not right, the rest doesn't matter.
Yeah, fair enough. Good point. Anya, what do you want? Any one or two your favourites?
So in hospitality, it's always the big ticket items that are usually the ones that you have to look the most at. But I totally agree, and this is actually the point that we'll be making in my presentation, that you have to look at the right figures to be able then to say what is actually if you look at the right figures and if you like make the right results, get the right results from it. So the labor and the labor cost and the food cost is the biggest what needs to be looked at, but
your
it has to be right. But it has to be right.
Okay, good, thanks. Okay, there's a question dropped in from Fabio, and everyone who's listening, would you mind just changing your little blue thing so the questions go to panelists and attendees, because that way everyone will be able to see it, and because some of the people here might have some answers as well. But Fabio's asked, how would you apply this sort of idea of top 5 numbers to catering? Well, a few things that came to mind with catering would be things, well, obviously a per head spend. If you're doing, are you selling more of the $28 a head platters or the $38 a head package or something like that? So, your average per head over a week would be something. And then if you've got add-ons as well, I'd be looking at how many of those are being sold as well, because you're with catering, we're also the same as with a lot of these figures, we're looking at the strength of our sales team as well. How well are they doing these sorts of things?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm not sure specific to Fabio, but I'm assuming this day and age, the majority of the catering orders will be coming in digitally, right?
Yes.
So like the easy one, like your burger thing, would be make sure that your most profitable items are like front and center. So when I hit, you know, order my catering, I'm looking at that burger first. And one of your favorite ones, Ken, good pictures. Take good pictures. But like if you're selling digitally, it makes a million% difference.
And picking up on your point, you know, if a lot of this catering ordering is coming through online, have you got all those add-ons and that suggestive selling set up and optimized and is actually working? Because if it is, people will add on certain things. They'll add in bottles of water for everybody or those sorts of things. If it's,
cutlery, napkins, all that stuff.
All that. Okay, we'll keep the questions flowing, everyone. Make sure panelists and attendees would be great. And look, any of these questions, I'll be sending out an email to everyone afterwards. If you want to follow up the conversation, ask more questions, I'm open to that, absolutely. Okay, let's ask Anya to talk about, we're getting now into the bookkeeping side of things. And Anya, tell us about what you got here, what components of good financial controlling, and you know, why have you got a cross? Why have we put a red cross beside this point of say profit and loss on the left?
Profit and loss reports, yeah. Now, so when we were talking about cost control, what I was asked to put a few ideas towards. In my eyes, it's the most important thing when you want to control your cost is that you have to know your cost. And the problem, what I can see with most of clients coming to us, is that they actually don't really know and what their costs are, even if they're getting reports, because most reports look like a little bit similar to what you're seeing here. So there will be a convolution of income, then the cost of goods or cost of sales, when you call them, and then there is in alphabetical order all your cost areas. And the first thing what we usually do is we are cleaning up the reports so that operators can really read them, because you can't really. It's not even easy to get labor cost out of this report. Because labor cost is not only the wages and salaries. Labor cost includes the superannuation, what everybody knows, but labor cost in our eyes, when we do cost reporting, includes as well workers' compensation, everything what you spend for your labor force. And it's when you can like that or you can don't like that, but in the end, it is labor cost should be. So
you're saying really the fact that it's only one line is really not nearly enough detail to.
No, because exactly, because that's what happens then when we're talking about labor cost. You need to look at your labor cost. It should not be too high. They're looking at the figure. Where's my labor cost? That's wages and salaries. Okay, this is what I'm having labor cost. Okay, that's all right, but that's not what your labor cost really is. But it's only one example. There's lots of other examples, because it is a report. Looking at the report like that is, even me as a professional, is not, I would have to really read into it to find out what's going on with this business. And in my eyes, it is just, there are ways of presenting reports a little bit differently. So
okay, and you've got some examples. We're going to look at those. Okay.
We're coming back to the points that are on this screen. We will be coming back to, because important to for good reporting, there are 5 very important points. You need to group your cost. The cost need to be relevant. That means the cost or the expense need to be relevant to the sales that are presented. They should be comparable. So that means everything what is in that area presented you should be able to compare to another period. It should be timely, so meaning you're not getting a report 3 months after you actually after your operations. So when you are putting staff on, and 3 months after you get reported that you put too much staff on, that's most of the time too late. And then very important, the integrity has to be right. This is exactly what Chris mentioned. The bookkeeping has to be right. So you need to make sure that everything is done correctly, allocated correctly. I had, as an example, this is a case study. What a client came to us. It's a while back because it was a big project, and they operated two venues and they didn't make any money. But in saying that, the venues were actually operating profitable, but the group itself didn't make money, and they couldn't figure out where the problems were.
Okay, so we're going to look at some examples about how you made improvements.
Yeah.
Now, just with the overhead, you've got some kind of benchmark figures there, which that's something that people are always very hungry for. You know, what should my admin costs be, or I mean, you've actually gone not the usual ones of labour and cost of goods, but other kind of smaller ones.
Now, could we switch at the moment quickly to the other slide, and then I'm getting back to that?
Sure. Okay.
You can. This is the problem with this report.
No.
You can't see it, and as soon as we go into the next slide.
So this is the one that now keep breathing, everyone. All right.
No, nobody reading anything. It's not about reading it. It's just about showing you the difference and what it is actually, what is the point of difference. So firstly we extracted from a purely profit and loss report. We extracted only the venue and allocated all the cost to the venue that belongs to the venue. Then we allocated all the cost in the right period, and that made it more relevant. And the other thing, what we are very keen on doing is we're actually presenting fortnightly reports, not only monthly reports, because labor cost, for example, is very hard to compare month on month, as hopefully everybody knows, because there's not always the same payroll periods per month. So if you now take a weekly report would be too complicated, but a fortnightly report makes sense. That will always tell you exactly the sales with the labor cost that belongs to the sales. So you can see this period I had this much sales and I had this labor cost, and this is relevant. It's not that I had a very costly period with, let's say, Easter period where we have high labor costs. So you're making a lot of sales in one period and you're having the high sales in the next.
So there's a little bit of averaging can take place this way.
Not average allocating. It's basically when I made. So this is where when you look at the fortnightly report. So where if they made $47,000 sales in that fortnight, then they had $30,000. Not 30,000. Sorry, $14,000 cost of goods for that fortnight, for that sales, and they had the 21 for this fortnight. So it's relevant exactly to the sales. Yeah.
As a professional, you know how to put all these figures, these reports together and make them much more understandable. I'm just thinking about that word time that was right in our faces right at the beginning. Yeah. How do you make it easy for people to just kind of grab all those piles of sticky invoices and all that kind of stuff and send it to you? Because that's the detail, isn't it? And the point of sale readings and all the bank statements. How do you help people save time with this whole thing?
Our clients are all using the document processing softwares that are around, like HubDoc, like Receipt Bank. So in the end, so what happens is they're at the end of the day, they are all the paperwork that got accumulated during the day. They received an order. They received the delivery, they received an invoice. This all of the staff takes a photo, and the moment they take the photo, the paperwork appears on our screens. So the paperwork is basically gets transformed digital to us instantly.
So it'd be interesting, maybe a few people could drop into the chat if you're using document scanning for your invoices. It might be you just photograph them, take a snap with your phone, or you might have a scanner that you use. Chris, I know you're a big fan of scanners as well, and just what's your system that you use for?
So me, same. It's all good software. Some have different strengths to others, and they're different price points. And the analysis process that the document reading software has varies upon the different brands that you can use.
Right,
but they're all quite good in their own right.
I might get you to, when you get a chance, to just drop the names of some of those systems, those document scanning systems in there.
HubDoc, Receipt Bank, and I don't know if you use anything else, Chris.
So Receipt Bank's just recently changed its name to DXT, if you're looking for it. And they're the two most popular ones. But hospitality, there's another one, not Lightyear, it's left me, but it does the purchasing as well, and it will manage your stock and inventory count, and it's really good, particularly for pubs, clubs, and bigger restaurants. And I've just gone blank on the name, but that's all right. It'll come back to me.
Okay, good, right.
And we are using mostly.
That's it. Thank you, Pete.
We're using mostly HubDoc, but this is just a Receipt Bank or text. I have that many. I have actually at the moment nobody on Receipt Bank. That's why. But it's basically the same. And this is not only scanning. This is just they basically make a photo into an app.
Okay.
And the app processes and the data entry happens already through the software. So with nobody sitting anymore and data entry people, we're just analyzing what comes in and making sure it's right. That's basically what you're doing. Yeah.
Okay. So anything else, Anya, you want to tell us about what you've highlighted a few things in yellow. What is that?
Now, so the what I wanted to just was about to say because fortnight and monthly. So the fortnight is important to me that you can compare your cost of sales and your labor cost with your sales in the right period, in the right way. And important is the comparability. So you always compare a few periods with each other.
Okay.
So this is the way where you can see with one line, every operator can see how they're traveling. Is it higher? Is it lower?
Right.
The monthly report, and the monthly report looks at more the overheads and to coming how the overheads, how the cost is actually under control. So with getting back to the topic of cost control is you need to know more or less what you actually want to achieve. And this is now where is it possible to flip back the slides?
Let's go on to the last one, because that's where we've got a comparison.
Yeah, okay.
Just to wrap up now.
Yeah,
with
okay, sorry.
The one, the kind of the one that was kind of categorized the wrong way and too much. Now, what's the advantage with the one on the right?
Yeah,
because this seems, you don't seem to have as much detail there.
Yeah, this is now where the report gets grouped. So all the cost gets grouped into the right areas. It doesn't mean that they're not separate accounts under these group listings, but then is as well you can determine what cost you actually want to. So how much cost you want to what do you want to achieve? What your cost targets are? Sorry, I'm missing the cost targets. So you need to find out, okay, how much do I give myself to spend on? Everybody knows that you say you should have a target with labor cost, you should have a target with cost of goods, but you can have your targets with the overheads as well. And you need to figure out your distribution. This would be a distribution where we're having a pretty healthy distribution of cost of sales and operating expenses. And you can see that within one picture. You don't need to be a financial expert to analyze that. Operations, this is what I meant with the other slide. The range, what we figured out where the range should sit in operational expenses, in administration expenses, marketing, repair and maintenance, rent. This is then where you compare with where you're sitting, and with one report, you would see straight away, okay, I'm traveling good, I'm traveling downwards. And this is what, in our experience, what helped our clients within a couple of months us implementing the systems.
Right, so really from an overwhelming amount of data, you've actually kind of paired it back to the essentials.
The basics, make it comparable, make it relevant, because the relevance is the important part.
Nice.
Most of the time, the data, you compare apples with pears, and that's not possible. So you need to make sure that the data, what they're comparing, what we're talking about, is correct.
Yeah,
I agree with this, Ken. That's one of the first things that we do as part of a rescue and cleanup is simplify the P&L so that there's tangible tools that the business owner can start using immediately. You often find that when, like the one with the cross, when a P&L is too expanded, often the coding is inaccurate as well, because
Right.
that creates a lot of extra data entry, and the data starts to get sort of bit put here, bit put there, and it's never always consistent as to where it gets placed. So a good, strong P&L like that is way better. But I would go one step further, and a lot of people are using things like Deputy and Tanda for payroll software management now. And if they've got that set up well, you can even simplify that labour cost, those labour cost lines more so, and let your software apps such as your POS and your payroll software do the heavy lifting of splitting out those numbers for you, and keep your P&L as a simple snapshot of your business performance, not your analytics.
Nice, good one. Okay, well, Chris, we'll jump onto your section now. Some good comments coming through from different people here with the question there about labour costs. Maybe a few people would like to drop in and into that and answer, your experience of that as well. And just a reminder to everyone, could you please, when you drop a chat in, make it to panelists and attendees, change that little blue bar, because there's some great comments being made there and I'm really keen for everyone to see them. Okay, Chris, let's hear.
Can I just jump in quickly? I think it's everybody, if you could drop it down and click on everyone. And then
okay, on everyone, I beg your pardon. I've got something different on my one. It's the person running the show. Thanks, Angus, appreciate it. Okay, so Chris, let's hear you coming from a different angle, do similar sort of work, crunching numbers for restaurants, cafes, food service, and you're kind of highlighting 4 figures here that they're sort of the ones we don't want to think about sometimes, aren't they?
Yeah, and they're big ticket. These are the ones that every business owner puts to the back burner. It's not in their face every day, but it creeps up on you every day, and it's getting bigger and bigger every day. So you really need to know that these numbers, these amounts are going to have to be paid just around the corner. And it's often why a startup will start to sweat and stress at about the 4-month mark, because all of a sudden the first BAS is due and the first super payment is due. And also, as part of the startup costs are the workers' compensation insurance and the business insurance. So these 4 numbers, I think, are ones that need to be monitored very closely throughout the business process. And it's pretty obvious.
So let's have a look at some methods. You've got some screenshots for us here. We're going into a bit of detail. We're talking Xero. I know.
Yeah, I just stuck with Xero because it's the most common one in hospitality. Well, it's the strongest performer across hospitality at the moment. And if you can find out where to get this information, you'll be able to check it anytime you want, day or night, provided your data is up to date. So you can set up a dashboard when you first open Xero up. On the screen, you can actually set up an account watch list. So you can have GST, PAYG, and super. You could also have your sales, or you might be tracking your wages, expenses, and it'll give you a year-to-date figure as you're going along. And as soon as you open it, that number's there. So that's
is that my liability, or is that the amount?
Anything that's on your balance sheet or P&L, you can actually set it up on your account watch list.
Okay, nice.
And you can track it every time you open Xero. The next thing you can do is you can actually learn to read your balance sheet report. So liabilities, it's what you owe. It's money that you owe to other people. So if you just run a balance sheet as at today's date, it should tell you in the liabilities section what money you owe out. So you've got accounts payable, that would be your suppliers, and it'll just give you the total of that. Go straight to your GST, which we call the general ledger line. And on this one, you can see that this person owes out $1,564 in GST. The PAYG is highlighted there, and so is the superannuation payable. And if you're organised, you would have another savings account somewhere with these 3 totals added together with the money already sitting there. So my tip is don't touch it. It was never yours in the first place. Create what I call a war chest. Add a little bit extra to it and do it on a weekly basis. Do it in small chunks. Even if every week that you set up a direct debit that $300 a week sweeps over to the war chest, when the BAS comes around, you're going to be a few $1,000s better off to pay that, and you won't have missed it. It's a very simple process. I've got a small cafe here in Brisbane that's came to me as he was 3 or 4 months into his business. He was off the rails. I actually said to him, if you don't touch Xero, I'll make my prices cheaper. And he said, done. And we've had a very happy relationship ever since.
So you don't have to unpick his stuff.
Yeah, I was starting to feel guilty with what I was
yeah.
charging him to fix his stuff. And he follows the war chest principle beautifully because it's what he can see. He can see the bank, and he looks at these numbers now.
Yeah,
and that's all he needs.
Nice.
Other than that, he knows he's got some profit happening and he's tidy. So next one.
So what are these next ones?
So if you want to look at your GST in a little bit more detail by quarter, that's possibly a little bit blurry for you folks, but
and look, I'll send this out. I mentioned before, I'll send out a PDF of this. Chris gave it to me that way, and you'll be able to go through. I did
not. It was clear when I sent it. So what this is, you can actually run a report in Xero, and it's called the Gst Reconciliation Report. And if your Xero file has been managed correctly, this information will be there. So the files column means what has been lodged to the ATO. It's a really good way to check if your accountant or bookkeeper is keeping your BASs up to date, because we get clients come to us and say, oh, my accountant has missed 3 BASs and we're in a bit of a mess with the ATO. So this is accountability for your accountant or bookkeeper. Look at that filed column, and that's what's been reported to the ATO. In the far right column, unfiled, that's the GST that has not been lodged at the ATO. And in this example, it's just $1 here, a couple of dollars there. That's just rounding, so that's irrelevant.
Okay.
But GST collected, GST paid, you can actually see what's coming up for the next quarter BAS. They're the last two lines there, and you'll know how much money you've got to have put away for the next BAS. So it's a real good snapshot as to upcoming BASs. And
this next one?
This is on the same report. We won't go into detail here. It gets a little bit too complex, but it's actually the journals or the movement of money that your accountant and BAS agent have actually put to the GST account. So if things are a little bit wacky and your accountants move stuff around, here's where you're going to be able to put a spotlight on it and see what they're up to. So we won't go into detail there. That's a topic in itself. And then you've got the account summary, which tells you if it reconciles or not. Now, this is the actual simplest one. You can actually run a generic BAS report in Xero, and it will pick up, if your file is set up properly, it will actually pick up the PAYG and GST amounts for you and tell you how much your BAS will be in the next quarter. So just go to reports, activity statement, it's in the account section there, and run it for the date, the expanded date range of your next BAS, and it should tell you your figures for PAYG and GST as of today. I mean, as of tomorrow will be a little bit more because you would have had more sales. But as it stands today, this person's BAS is sitting at $20,844, which consists of GST and PAYG. So if you can at least do that, you'll know what's going to hit you next time the BAS comes up and the account says, hey, you better pay your BAS tomorrow. You'll already be prepared. So you can be empowered with that knowledge instead of waiting to be a victim of somebody.
To be evicted, I thought she said, yeah.
No, well, I can tell you some stories about people who didn't get their super right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's find that. Learn how to find the data, and then you're not sitting there waiting for the data. So find it when you're in a mindset to actually analyse the numbers and take it on.
So what's your response, Chris, to the time thing about saving time? I don't have time.
Look, all of us get caught in that trap. Like, we all run businesses, we all get caught in that trap. I get that. But if you can pick up, just by doing this webinar, I think you're actually learning how to save time. So if you take away one thing from what's been presented from anybody here, you've probably saved yourself an hour, 2 hours a week. Okay. Just implement it.
Let's change gears now. Stephen, great to have your input here. Everyone knows Chart Time. Hopefully you've got the app on your phone. I do. Get little offers every now and again. So we talked recently about, your franchisees all have kind of standard setups on their screens, and they have the, as a good franchise system they've got the opportunity to, have comparison between different stores and things like that. Just picking up on a comment you made in the chat there too, when people were asking about labour costs, and you said anywhere from 21 to 35%, remember to find a balance between costs and sales growth. What do you mean, the balance between costs and sales growth?
Yeah, look, I think sometimes we tend to dwell a lot on our costs and you know, be it just it's an expense that we pay out on a weekly basis or monthly basis. But when I say we need to find a balance, it's important that when we go into business, what are our objectives? By that, I mean, you know, did you do a business plan? Where do you see yourself? What is unique to you? What are you looking for? Are you looking for, you know, to make lots of money? Or did you think that you were buying a business so that it's like McDonald's where it's going to print money for you? I think everyone has their own way of looking at a business. Certainly, we can go in and save lots of costs. We can cut lots of labor. But at what expense? Because I've seen businesses where the owner has gone in and tried to cut as much cost as possible. And as a result, service suffered. Probably the product wasn't as good as it should be. And so as a result of that, you'll see over time that, you know, the business sort of drops. And I think for me, you need to find that balance.
So how would you be measuring if someone's being too tight with their labour? You know, understaffing is what you're saying. How are you going to see that showing up in sales figures? Or what are some things? Is there a little yellow flag goes up when you're looking at, say, someone's performance with that sort of thing?
Yeah, look, of course. And I think going back to, you know, your profit and loss or your budgeting, having your budget, comparing your results to your budget weekly will give you a snapshot. And there are lots of ways in doing that, right? But there's no need sometimes to focus on the full P&L. My belief is that you can only control what you can control. Now, you know, if you've committed to, say, $150,000 in rent for the annum, there's nothing that you're going to do is going to be able to save that rent. So, you know, what you need to be focusing is how do you drive your sales so that your rent then becomes cheaper over time. You know, and part of that is utilizing the POS, right? So any POS system that I've come across has provided lots and lots and lots of data. Now, there's no need. Start learning on the basics of what suits your business and what you want to achieve. And from that, then expand your knowledge. You know, I've seen really, really detailed reports and I've seen very basic reports. But at the end of the day, I think your business setup, your POS setup is important for you to make an impact on your day-to-day operation.
Tell us a bit about the managing production times and the use of a display system like the make screen. How do you maximize the use? Because you guys really, you work your point of sale pretty hard compared to a lot of people, I think.
We do, because we're quite hungry for data, and I guess that, you know, we probably live in an era where we have a lot of opportunities to pick what kind of systems that we implement. Yes, getting the POS to work for you. But first of all, you need to understand what is it for. Now, we introduced a production monitor for two main reasons. One is product consistency across the network, because although we only just sell tea, you would not know that in our current menu, there are some 800,000 different combinations that you can have with those teas.
Wow.
So, yeah, when
I only showed 6 down the bottom.
And it's quite interesting because when you know, we talk about product within a cup, how do you train, you know, a staff member to make a consistent product every single time? And that's only in one location. How do you standardize that across 125 locations? So that's why we introduced the production monitor, so that it gives guidance. It also as a reference point for the staff. But having that is also important. But at the same time, we want to utilize the platform to be able to give us a measurement of service. And by that, I mean, how long does it take a staff member to make a particular product? Mm-hmm. Now, what you'll see over time is that the production of a particular item decreases, because as they get more skilled, they can make the product quicker. And so the introduction of the make screens and the positioning of the make screen within your location is so important. It needs to be in a prime position. It needs to be somewhere where people can see.
So you have it on the back of the point of sale? How do you locate it?
We generally put it in the middle of the production area, where the start of the production line all the way through to the end of the production line you can see. And of course, the customers will be able to see the screen, but won't be able to see the
I'm thinking of the local chart times near me. They're very open. It's hard to hide anything.
Yeah, so that's the main two reasons we use production monitors. We spoke a little bit about the time, and I guess there are two comments that I have to make. I think, first of all, if I was a business owner, then what is my time worth? Mm-hmm. If I was able to, hire and pay someone $30 an hour to do a specific role within the restaurant, is my time worth more or less than $30 per hour, I guess? If I took 5 hours away from my business and go through my P&L and understand it, can I add more value back to the business? That's the way I look at it. Now, of course, there's a balance. You need to be aware of what's happening in your business on a day-to-day basis as well. Utilizing things like dashboards can give you great insights as a snapshot as well. If you have those type of systems available to you, just picking out the key comparisons. Am I on track with budget? Is it in line with my forecast? How am I comparing to last week? How am I comparing to last year? So I think these are just real, simple numbers that we can look at to give us a guide.
Yeah, and this brings up, comes back to that point I made earlier about a lot of hospo people they don't love numbers. It's not they would have gone into banking or finance if that was their passion. Just Chris or Anya, dashboards. You both give, very kind of clear reports on a fortnightly or monthly or weekly basis, whatever customers want. What's your thoughts about, because a dashboard is something I'm almost able to look at any time on my phone or just pull up, it's available all the time.
You go.
No, I just wanted to quickly say a dashboard is good as long as you have your data day by day. The problem with the dashboard is the problem in general, pulling data out of your system is a problem when you have delays in data entry. Then you're getting inconsistent data, not correct data. And that's what I'm seeing a lot. We're creating dashboards, but if the data entry lags behind, then eventually the business owner will not trust the dashboard anymore. That's the biggest issue.
Yeah, good point. Chris, what's your thoughts on
that? Yeah, totally agree with that. Is the currency of the data is going to make a big difference to trusting what the summaries are.
The integrity thing that's come up several times already.
So we've got pretty much all our clients on a weekly report. I've got a report pack that goes to their inbox, which includes balance sheet, P&L, accounts receivable, accounts payable. And there's also the very last couple of pages is the list of all the transactions where everything's been coded. And some people do actually take the time to go through that and say, actually, that where you've coded to that expense, I know it's a bit weird looking, but it's actually this. Can you change it? Can you move it? So that just automatically, my team just emails that to the clients every Friday afternoon. The client inboxes go ping, ping, ping. And we're trying to actually make a habit. So part of the numbers process is having the habit to look at them, because you'll actually identify trends, you'll get faster at it, and you'll just develop it as a skill. So if I can...
It's a new muscle in a way, isn't it?
It's a new muscle. So if I can ping clients every Friday afternoon with something arriving in their inbox that reminds them to take a look at how they tracked, even if it's just the top line of sales, they're starting to change the way that they lead their business.
Hey, Steve, Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I think yeah, you're right. I think dashboard can be what we utilize. Dashboard is generally live data. Now, it's not going to be your final P&L for the month, but it will give you a clear indication to where you're at compared to last week, last year, without having to dig it up.
Yeah.
So at a snapshot, you could, at a press of a buttons, you know, even in the same row, you'd be able to see your comparison. Now, you know, that will give you the ability to make changes even on an hourly basis. You know, some businesses are weather bound. So, you know, if it suddenly storms, then, you know, nobody comes to my restaurant anymore. So what can I do to mitigate the risks? And, you know, what do I do with all the preps that I've done already? You know, as far as labor, you know, do casuals get, you know, shortened shifts, you know, all sorts of things. And I guess the dashboard gives us live, accurate data so that we can behave and react.
Yeah.
And that's where your pause is amazing. A good pause
Now,
that can
our
push that to you.
time's kind of slipping away here. So I'm just going to jump on to ask Tyrone to make some comments on, because he knows the chart time business pretty well. He likes bubble teas also. But Tyrone, interested to get your comments on some of these issues here, you know, because as I said before, chart time really works their pause really hard. Any kind of tips that for people who are thinking, hey, I want that, how do we get more from the current point of sale? And someone mentioned Square before, which is a simple, inexpensive system. Is all of this stuff available through Square?
I think I actually replied to someone's question where they said, is Square good or not? And I said, actually, Square's a pretty good pos. And in terms of real-time dashboards and stuff like that, you can definitely get that. But with everything, and I think everyone kind of touched on it a little bit. Like if you're talking about time and data integrity, if you can integrate your POS one into your accounting system, and I think Chris, you mentioned like Tanda or Deputy and stuff like that. If you can integrate all of those things, that saves heaps of time. You're not worried about data integrity. And if it's like a real-time solution, because I mean, one of the biggest things, Ken, and I mean, I don't know if, especially we've talked a lot about labor costs, but realistically, whether it's weekly, fortnightly, or monthly, if you're looking back and you go, my labor cost is high, you actually can't really change that. Like you can, like past tense, you can go, oh it's yeah, too late. It's too late, right? So
yeah,
you know, if labor cost is something super important, in my opinion, get a POS that supports real-time sales transactions and has an integration to like a Tanda, so that like you can actually know like in real time, or even set an alert and go,
right.
Oh my God,
so I can see the results. Wednesday morning seems pretty slow. I can actually see my labor cost for Wednesday morning against my sales almost.
Yeah, well, I mean, some people go to the extent, and I'm sure Stephen set up in their very you know, amazing setup, but unique, because you know they used some BI tools as well to, you know, have alerts so that when it goes above X%, you know, maybe the franchisee and
that's
stuff.
That little alarm bell that goes off when I walk past sometimes, is it? It's kind of what we want though, seriously, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we're talking forecasting here, looking at it, because, you know, a lot of, as you said, labor cost is like looking in the rearview mirror, isn't it? It's like, too late, sorry, you blew last week. Yeah.
And then the other one, I think it was actually a good question when someone said, well, you know, adjusting labor isn't always an option for some businesses, right? Because if they have one barista, one chef, and one waiter, so all wait staff, then like I actually tend to agree and go, well, don't, like, if that's the minimum, then you need to be focusing on KPIs that will help you like increase that average transaction value,
like
or exactly, like back to one of yours, like let's increase average spend per head or transaction value. Let's try and, like, because it's a, you know, it's almost a fallacy trying to focus on labor costs if you know you're never going to be able to decrease that. Right?
Interesting. Any other of these points that I've got up for Stephen, that Tyrone, that you want to pick up on?
Yeah, I mean, the production times is like, in my opinion, something, again, if you're trying to find the root cause or solution of potentially high labor, or where you can pick up efficiency, actually knowing what your make times are, and then even tying that back to, is there particular people that are better at, on the fry station or something than
Stephen, I know
else?
you do track sales by individual staff members as well.
Yes, we do. And we use it primarily as a incentive. So obviously we can see, if someone is upselling as opposed to someone that's not, or if there's any sort of trends or things that are happening, any opportunities. But we use it primarily for incentive, to say, look, this is the general dollars per hour that we sell. If the team can get to X, then this is your reward. And we tend to find that works very well.
What incentive is this? Financial or time off, or what works best?
It's funny because it's the recognition that is most important to the staff. So you could do anything simple, from like a $20 JB Hi-Fi gift card for the winner of the week, so to speak, and that has such a huge impact, especially if you publicly acknowledge this person for winning it. People say, yes, time, you need to put the time in it, but imagine if every one of your staff sold an extra $10 per transaction over 1,000 transactions for a week. The numbers are quite good if you look at it that way.
Yeah, nice.
Can I give you a tip? Actually talk to your accountant, because the gift cards, if you gave someone a Coles Myer voucher, for example, so long as it's not classed as entertainment, and that's a discussion again in its own right, so I won't go too in depth, you can actually put it through as a deduction. So just talk to your accountant.
Nice, good one. Okay, folks, we're coming up to the end of our time here, and Tyrone put a whole lot of information here for us, which I think we've sort of covered some of it I've been quizzing him about Stephen's data, but I'll be sending all this out as well, the slides out to you, because there's a lot of detail there that I know people want to look through as well. Tyrone, just quickly, any other pointers from your list there? Well, one thing I'd like to ask you about is exceptions. You said check exception reports, things that kind of get flagged about maybe things that are going wrong. Yeah.
I mean, probably the number one is probably never assume whoever's setting up the POS knows best. But in relation to exceptions, especially, I mean, if you're not working in the business, or if it's a restaurant-y business where it's orders go in and the client pays at the end, the exception reporting, like overuse of no sale, that's normally a pretty big red flag for me. Changing payment types and editing a finalized sale. So maybe it was paid by cash, and then they went, oh no, I'm going to put a discount on this now. And you're like, these are all things that most POS have some level of kind of that exception style reporting.
Right.
So
maybe we just, one day a week, we just kind of go through that and ask questions.
Well, the old trick we used to have is that you just say to a customer, why don't you just print this off and accidentally just leave it in the staff room one day, and then magically you'll see over the next couple of weeks the exceptions go.
Okay, I like that. I like that one. Yeah, nice. Okay, well, look, our time is finished, folks. We had a lot of great comments. Thank you. Questions? If we didn't answer your question directly, please, when you get an email from me, flick it back to me and I'll pass it on to one of our experts. I'll be giving you their contact details as well, and you've had those in the chat. Thanks to Chris and Anya, to Stephen, to Tyrone, and to Sven and Angus for helping out. And thanks everyone. It's we got quite into the depth with numbers. I found it very interesting. But thanks. Thank you. Awesome. And we'll see you at the next webinar.
Thanks, Ken.
See you again. See you, everyone.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you. everyone. That was good. I like that. We've brought everything together.
Yeah.
1 hour is not long enough, you know that.
No,
don't you?
I know.
Especially for a subject like this, hey.
Exactly.
I could identify 5 webinars.
Well,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people lack the attention span too. Like we had some good commentary on there, a fair few questions. We were a bit slow in the beginning, but it picked up towards the middle.
Yeah, people got a lot of comments coming in. Yeah, that was good. Nice. Well, thanks. Thank you, everyone. And we'll send out a link to the replay. Yeah.
Before we run, I just got a question for Stephen on just one question, man. I've noticed on your slide, do you monitor it hourly? Do you have like an hourly rhythm of just checking?
We do half hourly.
Half hourly, even better.
I guess, I mean, you can, because with today, you can get as much data or as little as you want, but you know, like what's your audience? Yeah, I mean, are we speaking with someone that's part of a franchise system, or are we speaking with the mum and dad operator? I think everyone's very different. Sometimes it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, no, 100%. I was interested in yours, man.
And do people mostly use those half-hour increments to check labour against it, or just to see?
They use that to forecast labour.
Okay.
So taking the average.
What's nice with the mums and pops and the smaller sort of operators, they have more control over it. I think they have more control, especially if they're operating the store themselves, because they can adjust and pivot and go, you know what, we can relieve so many staff members, you know, and it's important for them to know the operation runs in the back end, so they have that ability to maintain quality and service.
Yeah, look, I went to a mum and dad operator little cafe once, and I saw the sales, and the business owner said, look, you know, what am I doing wrong? I'm losing money every week. And I said, well, you know, you probably need to find that balance between labor and sales growth. In short, the business grew from, you know, double its size in a year and a half, and made lots of profit afterwards, just following different methodologies.
Yeah, and I think, Steve, what you're saying is, you know, they're so busy cutting costs and watching every penny, but, you know, where's the busy social media activity, or where's the local marketing campaign? Haven't got time to do it because
correct.
I'm on the back of the staff and sending them home early all the time. Yeah.
No times.
That's it. Okay. Thank you.
Guys.
See you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.
Cheers.
Bye.